Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nails and Beauty Talk, NFTs, crypto, and Web3. I'm your host, Asia the Bird. So I have a very special guest with me today. She's an NFT 3D artist. Please welcome Tammy Lovin. Hello, Tammy, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Aisha. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you're most welcome. So I want to go ahead and ask, where are you from? How'd you get started into art?
Yeah, well, I'm based in Eastern Europe and I actually have a bachelor and a master's degree in product design.
Hmm.
So that was like the first 5 years, so to say, like starting out my career. And then I had somewhere around 4 to maybe 5 years where I actually worked in tech companies as a product designer. So I was actually concept sketching ideas, 3D rendering, 3D modeling, and stuff like that. And then only afterwards, I actually made a transition to art itself.
So what attracted you to 3D design?
Well, I was fortunate enough to get it started while I was still at uni, because
Hmm.
it was part of our formal education, being able, to go from sketch on paper to an actual product in
Right.
a digital kind of form, to be able to go into factory production with that.
Hmm.
So I kind of started by doing it very, inside a box, so to say, because
Right.
everything was very rigid and very, carefully with every millimeter that would be designing, because that actual thing would go actually into the factory and made it product. It was going to be a series kind of product being produced there. So it was kind of like an interesting transition from going to that to get into art, because everything was so rigorous for me, and it was kind of a big leap and a big jump to go into art. And like the first thing when I did that was when I was actually working for a company and I was supposed to render a chair in like an environment, and I was supposed to show that chair in a way you'd see a chair in a magazine, set it up in a living room, everything is chill, nice, very the way you're used to seeing a chair. And
Right.
I was doing, yeah, and I was doing that, and I was like, but what if this chair would like float around?
Right.
And I put it midair, and it looked like so surreal. And for me at that time, it was like, oh my God, this is so artistic. Oh, and then I started from going that. I did went into like putting chairs on a pedestal in a body of water, and it was like really atypical, but it was still somewhat linked to what I would be doing, at that time, which was like designing furniture or tech
Uh-huh.
products or stuff like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was kind of like a soft transition for me. It was just experimenting with how would I be able to put this rigorous kind of design, but into a more artistic kind of way, which eventually kind of became a style in digital art. I'm sure you've seen like numerous images into that kind of area, where you'd have furniture pieces that are put in a weird kind of looking environment to be seeing a chair.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how basically I got started. And it was my first time toe dipping into art, let's say.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it very interesting because it's with the 3D art, it has this thing of this geometricness to it. But I definitely want to get into the neo-futurism. So what attracted you to that style of art of neo-futurism?
Yeah, well, neofuturism is basically the definition of technology meeting design, meeting fluid shapes, crisp materials, colors that are very bright and poppy.
Hmm.
So in my case, my renders kind of like begged me to do that. Like it's the way I see it, because I'm very influenced by the softwares that I work in. And for me, it feels very natural when I'm using that kind of software. It wasn't like something I chose. I almost felt like it chose me,
Right.
because like I'm always surprised when I see other artists using the same software as I do, but
Mhm.
coming up with such different outcomes. And like, oh my God, how do you do that? Because to me, the software begs me to do exactly what I do. So
Mhm.
I'm always surprised like how they come up with all these completely different outcomes, instead of what I do, which is, like really clean, tight, futuristic key and all that. So yeah, I guess neofuturism kind of chose me, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting that you say that because like the whole thing of like that neo-futuristic, when you look at architecture and how it's so like modernized, you look at architecture like in Dubai or certain parts of the world where they have like that futuristic type of style. I don't know if you heard of Zaza Hadid, but she was one of the
Yeah,
really
she's
had.
the queen. Yeah,
Yeah, she's the queen of architecture, right? Like she's had like
yeah,
those intricate like sculptures and buildings and it just had like a curvature
yeah.
and she had a great use of organic shapes, so that's something that reminds me of your work.
Yeah, wow, thank you. Thank you for that. She is my favorite architect in the whole wide world, and her work is absolutely amazing. And the studio that's continuing her work, is continuing doing an amazing and inspiring job. So yeah, it is like I wouldn't say that my style is super close to that, but it is
Right.
maybe enclosed in the same category of some sort,
Yeah.
in the sense that um I'm trying maybe to integrate that kind of style with my formal education, but also with my artistic style and my concepts, because most of my artwork, maybe even all of my art, it is very much about my own thoughts and my own emotional exploration. Because what I put in it is are like my deepest thoughts that sometimes, even if my artwork is really bright and colored and is like futuristic, often the meaning of it's kind of maybe dark, like I
Right.
speak about depression, I speak about anxiety, I speak about the fear of being in overcrowded sites. Like I have an artwork that's called Personal Heaven, and it's basically just some furniture inside a bubble, but it's above the clouds where you're basically alone. So that for me would be, how it would represent my personal heaven. Like it would be represented like that, kind of in isolation, in my own bubble. And that's both metaphorically and physically, because I do tend to stay a lot isolated in my own home, just like in VR, or, in front of my computer. So I'm kind of like trying to put a lot of my experience as a human into that, but like under this umbrella of neo-futurism and bubbly eye candy visuals,
Yeah, right, exactly. I also want to get into and ask you like what are like some of like your other favorite like architects or like futurist type of like artists, that you haven't
Mhm.
that you've been inspired by?
Yeah, so like apart from Zahadi, which we've mentioned, a great influence I had was my mentor, which is Karim Rashid.
Mhm.
He is one of the most prolific designers of his generation.
Right.
And I was very influenced by him while I was still in school. It was kind of like my dream designer, in terms of his creation,
Mhm.
And I
Right.
was very, very fortunate to actually collaborate with him. And I was actually, for a short period of time, part of his
Cool.
design team in New York. So that was like a dream come true, which I would have never even believed when I first started in uni. I reminded like no, actually I remember that when I was in the first year of uni, he
Right.
actually came to my city, which is like the capital of where I live,
Mhm.
and he had this conference, but it was like really expensive to go there, and I couldn't afford at that time. So my mom gifted me his book that was signed, and it was like I treasured that book like so much, and after, I think, basically, let me see, like after 8 years from that point, I met him at a conference which I then afforded to go to.
Wow.
I actually met him. I went to say to him like, look, you're my dream designer, I admire you so much and all that. And he said, well, show me your work. And I went ahead, I pulled out my phone, I showed him my portfolio. He said, like, wow, this is really good. I absolutely like it. And then we went like, we went to like drawing on napkins and sharing concepts and like that. He was extremely welcoming and warm. And
Right.
that night, basically, like after 2 hours of talking, it ended up with him saying, come work for me in New York, you know. And I actually said yes, and I went. That was like a life-changing experience. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, but like so it had a deep impact on what I do, you know, because I while I was there, I was creating under the umbrella of Karim Rashid Incorporated, you know.
Oh,
So even though, yeah, so even though the brands would come up to the studio and ask, you know, for something designed by Karim Rashid, it would fall under Karim Rashid Incorporated, and all of us designers there would have to design something in the style of Karim Rashid for that brand. So I kind of like for maybe I don't know, almost a year, the time that I collaborated with them, I had to kind of like incorporate that style into my own.
right.
So definitely, I still have some of those. I still have crumbs of that, you know, left in my work.
Mm,
Um, yeah, but also apart from that, I'm influenced probably the most by the rapid development of technology. And
mm,
let me just explain that. When a new software develops or a tool, you know, like VR headset, for example, where you can create very fluidly, you know, and without any previous knowledge of 3D, you can just like get in there, just do like a short 10-minute tutorial, and you're in there, right? You're designing and everything.
mm-hmm.
That actually kind of like drives me into a certain direction. Like, of course, I still kind of like maintain my core values and my core identity in terms of art, but I let myself be very influenced by the medium I work in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or for example, if I do some augmented reality work, which is like the target type, you know, and you can scan a tattoo, for example, and have it, you know, shown like in a different kind of way, like almost like a hologram, you know, it pops on your phone. Then I'm gonna let myself that kind of environment and the way you visualize the end point get into the process of how I think about that, you know. And I'm thinking like, okay, so this is a real thing. It's gonna show up on a phone, and the phone is gonna showcase it like almost like a 3D thing. So I
Right.
better do something 3D and not flat, you know. So these are kind of like the first steps I go through. So basically, I kind of like mix my art with technology,
Mm-hmm.
and I let myself be guided a lot by the technical possibilities of the software or the tools, you know. Like for instance, like 3D scanning. When you scan a real object with your iPad or your phone or whatever, you know, and it translates into a 3D object, I try to come up with creative ways of how can I incorporate that real life thing into a 3D artwork that's going to showcase up, that's going to be up on a screen on somebody that's going to try to view it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I can scan myself and incorporate myself as an avatar into a composition.
Right.
So basically, I would say that my creativity is maybe like 99% technology driven, you know. That's my starting point for everything I do.
Mm. Yeah, I could totally see that because, like, bounced off what you said, like, technology is really, it's always changing, it's always evolving. And the thing is that I definitely want to get into in terms of the VR because I know, you have an interest in that and you get involved with that as well. Like, what is the whole difference between, like, especially with virtual reality? I definitely want to get into this because what's the difference between AR, VR, and XR? Is it the same thing or is it like, what's the difference between those three things?
Well, so I think some time ago the difference was very obvious between AR and VR. But
Uh,
as time goes by, these two things are kind of merging into what we're now calling XR, which is extended reality, which is basically the umbrella that's covering both VR and AR. But if we go like one step back, so basically, VR is something that you experience while putting on a VR headset, you know, like Oculus Quest or, you know, other kinds of brands of headsets. And AR is something that you experience on a screen type of device that either has like a tracking target that you can scan, and then the augmented reality basically pops on your phone, or the filters that are AR that you can use throughout an app, like Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or, whatever other standalone apps that have AR incorporated. But what's happening now is that these two are bridging into XR, which is like tremendously exciting for both people who are working in this field and both users, in my point of view, because what's happening is we're going to see new technology, like new devices that are going to incorporate that. And I'm referring to XR glasses or AR glasses, which is kind of like the name that they're going with, which
Right.
are basically going to be glasses that you put like you're just going to use them like normal like shades glasses, like sunglasses,
Right.
but you're kind of going to be able to see through it what we now see on our phones and what we now see in a VR headset.
Right.
So let's say, for instance, you have them on and you're walking on the street,
Right.
and you're going to be able to see stuff like, I don't know, maybe you're going for a run, okay? And there's going to be maybe augmented reality checkpoints that you can check, and you can just like go through and collect maybe like a coin, I don't know, in the Mario game, you're just gonna like be able to run, like wave your hand on the coin and collect it, and it's gonna be like, okay, you run 5 miles. Each time you collect a coin, it means like you just like put some running into your app, for instance. Or you're gonna be able to see through your glasses if somebody has set it up their avatar. Instead of having a profile picture, we're going to be able to wear like virtual clothing, okay? So like you can set yourself, if you want to wear like a huge princess dress, okay? Anybody who's going to be wearing these glasses are going to be able to see yourself, like no matter what you're wearing that day, they're going to be seeing like, an overlay of that princess dress, which is like amazing. Let's get to that point, like I cannot be more excited about that. And also you're going to be able to use it in all this kind of mundane and day-to-day tasks, like cooking. You're going to be able to see like a list of what to do, like it's going to be able, to scan, I don't know, like the carrots, okay, you're doing a soup, and it's just going to say, okay, you added the carrots, next step, and you're not going to be seeing it like overlaid here like on your glasses. It's going to appear like, it's overlaid to the reality. It's going to be next to the pot, next to the boiling pot, which I personally think it's really amazing that we're going to be able to see all this kind of AR into our day-to-day life, really, in a seamless kind of way without feeling the technology involved in it. Because right now you have to use your phone, it's a device, but when you're having your glasses on, you're not going to feel anymore that you have something, using as an interface, which I think it's absolutely amazing. And the way I feel like virtual reality is going to be incorporated in all of this, I think it's going to be with the help of artificial intelligence. And by that, I mean that we're all going to be able to create worlds like, what's now called somewhat the metaverse. Let's say we're going to be able to create our own environments, just like by voice command. So for instance, let's say like now, okay, if you want to use a filter, you have to go to a filter that's already been created, okay? You want to wear a dress, a headpiece, I don't know. Somebody created, like a person, a real person, invested time, did the 3D work and all that, uploaded it, blah, blah, blah. But but we're going to be able to create it just by voice command. Let's say you want to wear that princess dress, okay? So we're going to be like, like the way we're now saying Siri, you're just going to be like, I don't know, XR glasses. I want to wear a princess dress today. And it's going to create a princess dress. But you're going to be like, no, I want it green. Make it green,
Right.
It's just like instant green. And then you're going to be like, yeah, but like make it shorter. And I want 3 buttons in the front that are like neon pink. Just like, bam, it's there, And I think
Right.
that's the most amazing utility of XR, but it's going to have to be bridged with artificial intelligence, And I'm so excited to go there. Even though, as you know, as somebody who's a 3D artist and all that, I am a tiny bit worried about losing my job because basically now I'm the one creating that, you know. But
Right.
I am very excited about people who are not, you know, trained in creating VR, being able to access all this stuff and kind of create for themselves all this kind of amazing, cool stuff. And we're all going to be able to just explore others' creativity and all that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because, I'm hoping as long as AI is used as a positive thing, I have no issues with it. The whole thing is like, you have like parts of AI now where they're doing like self-driving cars. You got, the Dolly robot that can create.
Mm,
You give it words and it creates a picture. Like if you want like a frog, riding a skateboard, like
yeah,
everybody's gonna make a frog riding a skateboard, So it's like, it's crazy of how technology is growing now, like where AI could like, do things from like, its memory or something like that.
exactly. Yeah,
Or even draw a person, like just look, somebody look at the camera, So it's just crazy how AI is just like slowly like progress. It hasn't hit us yet, but
yeah.
it will down the road, I think.
Yeah, we're going there at a very rapid pace, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, what got you first exposed into NFTs and Web3?
Well, I started this journey about 3 years ago, maybe three and a half or something like that. And I was really excited about the way people could interact differently with my art. It was really interesting for me, the concept of my art being on the blockchain, and potential future collectors and buyers would get my art in a digital form. And I was really interested about that interaction, which is me, the artist, my art, and the collector, you know, this triangle, this digital triangle.
Right.
And when I created my first collection, it was dedicated especially to be an NFT. So I didn't get previous artwork and just made it on the blockchain. No, I did something from scratch. And my first collection was called Crypto Rocks, and it was this kind of made up superpowers collection in which there were like five kind of like magical sci-fi cyberpunkish rocks that would have this different kind of like let's just say that they like I envisioned them to be dedicated to a certain type of person. So there was one, for instance, that was supposed to help you with when you would get anxiety or a panic attack, you know. And I created the sound from scratch for it, the visuals, and there were like the stats next to it, and it would say like, this is the kind of item that helps you go back to your core values and your morals, and you know who you are no matter where you're at, no matter in the environment, no matter what other people say. So the way I portrayed it to work when it got collected was, you'd be in a situation where you'd get challenged into that kind of, you know, it would tap into that specific trigger of you know, like, oh, what the f am I doing here? You know, who are these people? They're telling me who I am. Who am I? You know, like maybe it's a party and you're getting asked a lot of questions, or maybe it's a family dinner, or you know,
Right.
whatever. So the way I envisioned it would work, this, you know, supposedly magic sci-fi rock would be like, you would pop out your digital wallet, you'd look at it, you'd put in your headphones and listen to the sound of it,
Right.
and you'd read, you know, what it was written in it, and you know, it would help you recenter yourself and get back to you. So there were five in total, each of them tapping into a specific kind of issue, you know, and it was supposed to do that, basically trace you back to yourself in a way, depending on the trigger. And one thing that I did that I thought it was really, really fun, and my collectors really liked it,
Mm.
was that once you would purchase this item, you would get access to an AR filter,
Hmm.
which was like a private link. So basically, nobody else than the person who acquired that piece had access to. And with that link, it would open up Instagram and it would pop up an AR filter, which was with the rock that you bought. And basically, you could just place that rock in an AR environment, like
Right.
on your desk, or take a selfie with it, so you would make it your own in a way, which I think it's really important when buying a digital asset, that you get some form of tangible, it has some tangibility to it,
Right.
because otherwise it's just a video on a screen, which is fine, but I wanted to give a bit more. And I also gave out like a tiny piece of code, let's say, which you could type in any platform that had Giphy integrated, like Instagram stories, like WhatsApp, whatever that had Giphy, or access to GIFs basically, or
Right.
GIFs, whichever side of the GIF or GIF you're at.
Um,
And basically it would just pop out a collection of GIFs that were dedicated for the Crypto Rocks collection. You'd have me, the creator, that was just like a tiny spinning GIF. You'd have the rocks, you'd have the name of the collection. So all this purchased rocks would come out with this thing. So basically on a story, you could share, stickers and gifts with that, which was pretty cool. They found it pretty fun. Now actually there is like this thing is open, like I made it public, so anybody that goes to my Instagram profile can actually experience these AR filters, even though they don't have the rock, they're public now. It's been some time. So anybody can play along with it.
mhm.
Yeah, so basically I think like the short answer, because I'm giving you like really long answers. The short answer, I think it would be the interaction between me, the artist, the art, and the future buyers, because I try to encapsulate that idea in any kind of NFT that I do, something that you cannot possibly do in the physical world that you can do in the digital world.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is with the NFT space and what I've really heard, and I interviewed Leah Sam, she does Power of Women NFTs, and she even said like there are more artists every day jumping into the Web3 and NFT space, so it's getting harder to stand out. So I like how you brought up about assets and utility, because I think that's very, very important, because that's something that not a lot of people are offering. Like people are just jumping into NFTs and just putting out their artwork. Like, people aren't thinking about further, like with the NFT, if you buy the token, this is what you get with it. You know what I mean? And that's the thing with
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
So I definitely want to also get into wearables, so you have your own line of wearables, especially your own clothing line, Tammy Lovin clothing line, which is really, really cool. I love the bright colors, and I'm all about the bright colors, you know what I mean? But I definitely want you to talk about more about the wearables, especially your in real life clothing line.
Yeah, so that's actually a funny story, because it all first started as a real clothing line, okay?
Hmm.
And I was using digital software for budget, like it was kind of like a budget issue. Let me explain.
Hmm.
So the whole concept behind my real clothing line is that you go on a website and you would be able to customize it. So I made like a bunch of designs that you could customize the clothing with. So you can choose like the center part of a dress to be a certain print, and then like this part and this part, like the arms, or whatever, like the part covering the arms to
Right.
be a different print or a different color. So everything would be custom. So when that order was finished and it was sent into the cart, it would go into print, and then into the workshop, and it would become like a real piece of clothing that you'd receive at home.
Right.
So the problem with advertising that kind of product was that, to showcase what you can do and how many designs you can actually mix,
Hmm.
I would actually have to print all of that and get them sewn in the workshop and all that. That means quite a significant budget,
Right.
because it would be like, like the like times eight, like X dexters. No, wait. Sorry, by the way, English is obviously not my native language. I'm
It's
doing
all
my
good.
best
Take your time.
here. Okay, yeah, so you would have like a huge number of combination if you go like, the front times by, how many types of arm designs you would have. So it would be like
Right.
in hundreds. So I couldn't possibly showcase all that.
Right.
So what I did was I was already designing them in a digital software called Clo 3D, and that was the help to actually print them.
Mm-hmm.
And it would also have the option to basically render them. So I was like, how about I don't actually produce them? I just like render them and put on the Insta page, just like, the renders, because they would look pretty realistic to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I started putting out these renders, and people would ask, like, is this a real clothing? And I would be like, yeah, it's very much real, because back at that time, virtual clothing was not a trend, was not something that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing my best to try to make them look as real as possible, photoshopping and all that. And I started adding them first on a digital character, but then I started adding them on either my body or a model body. But it would be just like the same photo,
Uh-huh.
but then, adjusted the virtual clothing on. But
Mm-hmm.
I was doing, my best to convince people that's actual real clothing. Like, not in a form, that I was tricking them. It was just like kind of like it was a budget decision to not have them done real life, but actually virtually. Um, so after some time, I obviously had all these different renders and all this
Mm-hmm.
digital assets. And I was like, okay, so like, how about I actually do something with this stuff too?
Right.
So I thought, like, okay, maybe there are people out there who want to get a piece of my clothing, but they don't have maybe the money to actually purchase that, but they could get it with a filter.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, like, okay, why not make a filter with these assets that I already have? So I started off doing that. So there would be like a Snapchat filter where you could wear my jackets or my dresses like that.
Right.
That's basically the story that kind of like how I got into virtual fashion. It started off as a real kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a budget decision. And now that is trending, I'm actually, getting more requests into doing virtual clothing than
Mm-hmm.
actual clothing, which is it's kind of like a nice turn of events.
Right.
Because I'm obviously super pro wearing virtual clothing, especially for Instagram, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so much waste in terms of you buy a garment that you only use once for a photo, and then you never wear it again. Especially in influencers and all that do that a lot. And I think it's such a better option to just have a digital garment fitted to you,
Right.
instead of just buying fast fashion and all that for just a photo, which is digitally anyway, so you can just like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But my it's funny because like the trend now is to have all this really really wild um
Mm-hmm.
garments, virtual fashion that is like a dress made of water, or sneakers that are on fire and all that, which I think is like so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But my specialty is doing like real looking outwear, that basically
Uh-huh.
when people wear it, it doesn't look that much virtually.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's very interesting because like virtual fashion is like it's growing so much. Like, like stuff that I've seen like people doing like in like garments, walking garments and stuff like that, like dresses, like haute couture. Like it's really, really cool to see that, especially people who are into fashion are really taking advantage of the virtual reality or, the metaverse. So I definitely wanted to really go ahead and ask, like, what were your experiences, collaborating with clients possibly with your brand, possibly?
Well, my client work is so diverse. I do from AR filters to clothing line to digital artworks to, I don't know, metaverse architecture, VR performances. I don't know, anything digitally. Basically, I call myself a digital art creator or digital experiences art creator, and whatever falls under that umbrella, which are a lot of stuff at the moment.
Right.
Um, so basically, my client work is pretty fun to do. I'm lucky to say that it's super fun to do, and it's nice that I get a lot of creative freedom. I'm not like I do get a brief, obviously, if it's
Hmm.
a brand, they sometimes ask for specific colors or maybe a specific look. But if they come to me, they're already familiar with my portfolio. So most likely they're going to be asking,
Hmm.
okay, we want kind of like this that you've already done, but
Hmm.
for us, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, and sometimes it's as little as having a logo, maybe somewhere incorporated around there. Like for
Uh-huh.
instance, I had a beverage company which wanted me to do an NFT series, but they left me total creative freedom. They just wanted to have the tagline reinterpreted in a way, and
Hmm.
I think it was like take a moment and the name of the brand, and I
Right.
just kind of like I went wild with it because I could, and I just like put the logo as kind of like a neon sign into
Hmm.
that image somewhere. But it was like really small and nicely incorporated. So it's nice because at least the brands I've worked with, they are very subtle in the way that they're wanting, their brand incorporated, and I have a lot of creative freedom as an artist.
Hmm. Yeah, right, exactly. Now, what is your whole take in terms of like pricing your work, and especially with you doing like NFTs? Like, how did you go about pricing your NFTs?
That's a really tough question, to be honest. And because I think it's a tough question because the market fluctuates so much,
Right.
and because the
Hmm.
fact that NFTs are actually priced in Ethereum, and now, with the market going down and all that, basically what I've priced at a, certain price, maybe let's say a year ago, and it's still there in my collection, can be now bought for a really like maybe half of the initial amount that I thought it would translate into US dollars.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's a great time to buy NFTs at a discount price, in my opinion. Um, but what I did was like I tried to adjust my Ethereum prices with the market. So
Right.
what I would rate as, I don't know, a 0.4 Ethereum a year and a half ago, it would be, I don't know, maybe a zero point 0.9 Ethereum right now. So I'm not sure how to answer that because it definitely fluctuates with the market, and I try to adjust my prices with it. Um, but mostly I do count hours, like how much, like how many hours did I put into working that? Or sometimes I just want an NFT to be out there and be collected fast because I'm
Right.
excited about it, and I just like put it as like super, super small price and I announce it and it's like immediately collected. Or if I do charity work, because I do take charity, like diverse organizations. Like I think I had like a total of 6 NFTs, which the
Hmm.
whole proceedings of it would go to Red Cross Ukraine when the whole conflict started. I priced some of them at a really high price, but some of them at a really low price as well.
Right.
So I would get, like a lot of people who wanted to donate maybe $50. One of them was actually for $50. So
Right.
it was like a rather small amount that, maybe somebody wanted to donate. So what
Uh-huh.
I did was like offer my time basically. And I said like, hey, look, if you want to donate $50 to Red Cross Ukraine, you also basically get like almost like a free piece of Tammy's work with it.
Right.
That's kind of like the way I advertise it, like donate $50 to Red Cross and get like a free piece, even though that like the NFT was priced at the equivalent in Ethereum of $50, but all the proceeds went to Red Cross. Another one that was also donated was $900, and it was auctioned in live in a Twitter space. So
Mm.
it really varies. It was from the same collection, but one was $50 because I really wanted to get a lot more people donating to the cause, and then others were higher priced. But I tried to, stay somewhere, I guess, on the average side of prices, unless I'm having a campaign of some sort of, or yeah.
Hmm. So how have you been able to like brand like your wearables? Because I know you said about like your actual clothing line, you know what I mean? So how have you been able to brand like wearables like in the metaverse possibly?
Well, so my wearables are currently set either in dedicated apps that sell wearables,
Hmm.
like Zero app, like DressX and all that,
Hmm.
or as a Snapchat filter. In the metaverse, they would be called skins, basically,
Hmm.
because they're kind of going with the naming from games. So it would have to be an NFT that would be dedicated to a specific metaverse. Like for instance, if you'd want to wear, I don't know, a certain dress, let's say in
Hmm.
Decentraland, it would have to be an NFT that was designed for that specific metaverse,
Right.
which I currently don't have. I don't have them as skins yet, but I do have in plan to do that somewhere in the near future. But I was kind of like, there are a lot of metaverses happening right now, and a lot of people are migrating from one to the other. I don't feel like it's like one that's the metaverse.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of like still waiting out to see, because like in the back end of it, it's pretty different how you're supposed to do the technical side of it. So I kind
Right.
of want to dedicate some time to the metaverse.
Yeah, yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, what have been some platforms like NFT platforms that have really, thought that really, really helped you in terms of selling NFTs? Like whether it was Coinbase or Known Origin, like what are some of the platforms that you've used that helped you sell NFTs?
So I think that in the past years, things really changed in terms of marketplace. Like I remember the beginning of it, there was like, I don't know, seven max.
Hmm.
And it was like this hype. It was like some of them were like, free entry, just sign up and you got in.
Right.
Some of them were invitation based, some of them were portfolio based or video. You'd have to like,
Uh-huh.
enlist a video, get accepted, blah, 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 and all that. So what I did was I tried to be very efficient. So at first I didn't bother at all applying to platforms who were, requiring an interview and all that. I really wanted to get my art out. And I said,
Right.
like, look, if I can make it on a free platform, I can make it anywhere. It doesn't matter that much.
Right.
Um, so the first platform I got my art onto was Rarible, and they were like super in the beginning of it, and they had like a lot of support. So I got my profile verified really fast. They liked my work. They promoted on Instagram and over Twitter and all that. Had like a real person which I talked to in Discord from their side, and they were really supportive of my collection and me as an artist on their platform. So that was really nice, and I appreciated that a lot. It meant hugely because I was just like one of the many thousands of people launching daily new
Right.
stuff. So it was really nice. And after having, I think maybe it was like about a
Mm.
dozen NFTs on Rarible, I started looking into other platforms as well because I got invited. So I didn't really reach out to them. I got invited in there.
Hmm.
So I got invited into Maker's Place and Known Origin and Foundation. So I started putting art in there too, and participating to their bids and stuff. Maker's Place was probably one of the warmest community I
Hmm.
might say, at least for me. That's how I felt it.
Right.
And I really like the fact that they started this campaign. Actually, I started with them the campaign for donating to Red Cross Ukraine. So I got some help from them with that part and found some collectors, so we could donate fast. So that was really nice. I really liked that. And up to this date, I didn't find the time, to be honest, to apply to, the, let's say, A-list platforms, like Super Air and whatnot, because I, I don't know, I had this like very personal thing because I felt like, okay, so if I have to struggle that much to get into, like apply through a video and blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah, blah, I was like, well, I'd rather focus my time on creating art and just like putting it out there. I'm sure enough people will find, you know. So I went with Bitsky, I went with like a bunch of platforms. I don't know, I think there are like about 20 now that have my art. And also like really new platforms that are currently launching right now, which are like opening and they want to open with like a set of artists. And I'm part of like two platforms that are currently launching this month. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so I kind of like I really went with the whole vibe of if I'm invited I'll come. I guess. Yeah, as a vibe, you know, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. But I definitely want to touch on some because I recently listened to your podcast episode with yourself and Holly Shannon, whom I've interviewed. She's a podcaster and also a jewelry designer. So I definitely want to get into your jewelry line. So what got you starting to have like your own like jewelry line?
That's actually a funny story as well. Like most of what I do is some sort of like has like a twisted kind of story behind it. So what I did was I really liked other people's jewelry, like in terms of artist jewelry, you know. And I was going to special fairs that only invited as showcasers just jewelry artists, you know. And I was buying from
Mhm.
local jewelers and I was buying from them, but I also had some specific designs in mind. And I would like every time I would buy a piece from an artist, I'd be like, hey, look, I have this idea. I would really like, you know, a necklace that kind of looked like this. And all the time their answer would be like, look, no offense, it's cute, but I only do my stuff. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I totally get it. It's your, you know, your collection and all that. You're not a maker, you're an artist. Okay, like I get that.
Right.
And then I asked one of them, was like, but could you possibly maybe refer me to a workshop that could do it for me? Because I wanted to have my own stuff. But
Right.
I didn't plan to have like a business or a brand out of it. Just I wanted like a necklace for me and a couple of rings as well. So I got referred to this workshop. I did my
Mhm.
rings, I did my necklaces. I did way much more designs than I initially thought I would because I got, you know, I was like, oh my God, I can actually do this like in real life. Jewelry, oh my God, we can do this. I thought that it's like this really gatekept process or something. So I was really excited when I
Right.
could, like, oh my God, I can have my own jewelry. Holy shit. Um, so I started wearing them at events, at, you know, so people were very interested about them. They would like, oh my God, where did you get that necklace from or that ring from? And it's like, oh, I kind of did it myself, but like not myself. It's my design, but somebody else did it. And they were like, oh, can you make me one? But I want one that looks the same. And I was like, yeah, sure, I can make you one. But from, you know, making one to this person, making one from the other person, it kind of like started to be, you know, like I
Mhm.
was making lists like for, you know, for Anna
Right.
do this size, for, you know, Mike do this. I was like, oh my God, this is getting into a real thing. Like, how about you guys get in contact with them and you do your designs and whatever? So like, no, but we want yours. So like, okay, look, I'll make an Instagram page and I'll centralize there everything. I did the page, but then how it happens, I got creative with the pages. So like, oh, what if it would look like, you know, what if I would do like monochromatic posts and each ring would be just blue and then just yellow and then you know, like I hired a photographer, I hired, you know, and I did like all these posts and it was like it
Right.
was really showing like really professional, but I just had fun with it, you know.
Right.
Um, and I posted it out there. I, you know, told my followers about it and all that, and they like started following the page. It got shared a lot, like really really fast in a matter of days. And I had people in my DMs on that page raging about the fact that I don't have a website where they can order. How can they order with card? How is this possible? What kind of nonsense is this? And they were like really angry with me, you know. And
Wow.
I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't have a business out of it. It's just like I just had fun with it. Oh my God.
Yeah, as a
So
hobby.
basically, yeah. And then I had to when I went out and did the whole website and pay by card and everything. So I kind of like I just like one day I had a business out of it, and people are still ordering. It's kind of like, yeah, I just like it's a crazy story basically. It's not something that I ever intended to do, but it's something that I totally ended up doing. And of course my designs were first made in 3D because that's what I know, that's what I do. That's how I
Yeah.
know to design. So I had them digitally. And when the whole thing with AR filters got into me and I was starting doing that, I was like, what if I make like these rings, AR filters, and people could just like, I don't know, either have them huge on their head, like a huge ring, or, just like casually wear them, but in a photo. So that's how my jewelry also become kind of like wearables or AR wearables. It all comes back to the fact that I only design in 3D. So if it's there, it's super easy to put them in any kind of endpoint that's also digital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
right.
just the same with the clothes, sort of.
Mm. Yeah, right, exactly. Now I definitely want to get into in terms of like collaborations. Like, is there anybody that you like to collaborate with, down the line possibly?
That's a very good question, an interesting question that you've asked, because recently I did have a session with another creator in VR, which
Mm-hmm.
is insane because I didn't know it was possible. So apparently they did an update a couple of months ago and made
Right.
this possible. And you can have up to 4 people without a subscription. And you can have up to 4 people in there creating simultaneously, which is a very interesting way to collaborate on a sculpture or a
Mm-hmm.
canvas or something like that, because that's impossible to do in real life. Like imagine 4 people on a tiny piece of canvas, like you wouldn't possibly be paid, you couldn't get in there
Right.
to paint. But
Uh-huh.
like digitally, we can all be in the same physical spot, which is like centered, and just like draw or sculpt or create stuff or whatever.
Right.
So I didn't collaborate with anybody until, but just as I was saying, when you ask, like what does influence me? This is the exact kind of thing that gets me into a new line. So did I
Right.
collaborate? Did I collaborate before
Mm-hmm.
VR collaboration being possible? No, but I'm definitely planning to do so since
Mm-hmm.
this is available now. So yeah, I'm just trying to get a bunch of artists in there and just like go full artsy and see what comes up with it. I don't know. Make it maybe a VR experience, maybe make it an NFT. I don't know. So yeah, I'm definitely going to collaborate in VR soon enough.
Yeah, that'd be really, really cool. Now, what's your whole take in terms of NFTs and Web3 and like where it's headed?
Well, for sure, NFTs are here to stay, and not just in this digital art kind of form. I'm thinking that their most utility is gonna be with the soul-bound token, where we're gonna be able to have, diplomas and other official papers and documents in NFT form. Like have your birth certificate like that. When you buy a car, it's gonna be an NFT and all that. So I really think that our real world transactions are going to be incorporated into the blockchain. Um, and in terms of digital art and metaverses and all that, I think it's going to become just more and more mundane. If it started off as kind of like very niche with the crypto bros and all that, I think it's going to become really mundane to own different kind of assets in NFT forms. Either
Right.
it's a property asset that you have the certificate from in there, or it's art from an artist, or game assets that you go into metaverses and play with,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever kind of assets. I think it's going to be digitalized, encrypted on the blockchain. And
Mm.
metaverses, I'm thinking we're gonna be able to explore metaverses very soon when it is embedded with VR, just like you mentioned with DALL-E, when you get like prompts and it translates into an image. I
Right.
think we're gonna be able to have our own creation of metaverses. Just say like, you want to say, let's say you just want to sit in a beach environment, but not one that it is, created already. You want to create your own. So you're just gonna say like, load me up, just like in the Matrix, I think it's in the second one, it was like the scene where they would just load guns and stuff like that. We're gonna be able to load beaches and palm trees, and you're gonna be able to say like, yeah, but without the wind. And you can just like chill in there on the beach in the metaverse and invite your
Mm-hmm.
friend, just gonna call and invite them over in the metaverse that you just created, just
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I think that's where it's headed, or at least I hope so, because it sounds damn interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I find that very interesting because like I see like, NFTs in Web3 is like it's growing and growing and changing and evolving. And the thing is that you got like I remember like, first off, I remember like when IMVU was like the top like virtual world player,
Yeah.
and it was like, then you had Second Life, then you had there's like
Yeah.
this
Oh my
other thing
God.
there's this other thing called Frenzy I used to play when I was like 13. Like it was like this other virtual world type of thing. And then it comes to like, Pokemon Go, like how you said the VR.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how a lot of stuff is really, really evolving, especially with VR. People getting more invested in that. There's this artist, his name is Joy World, and he does like his own like worlds, like his own characters and stuff like that. I think his name is John Orion, I think John Orion Young, and
Okay, I'll look him up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He does like these crazy, like fun, bizarre characters and stuff like that. Like, I like his work. I think it's very, very unique. But I think like what Sandbox is doing, what Decentraland is doing is really, really interesting. Especially people can be a creator in itself and make different
Yeah.
assets, make their worlds, make a game and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's really crazy of just how far NFTs and Web3 has come.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. And you've mentioned like a lot of names. I think one of my favorite ones that was like really early in the metaverse game was Sansar, which is in VR. That's my personal favorite one in terms of virtual meetups,
Hmm.
because the graphics and the aesthetics of it really tuned to my soul. It was like really futuristic and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, what's your take in terms of like the fashion sector of like NFTs and Web3? What's your perspective on that?
Well, I would have never believed, to be honest, that what would be hyped around would be virtual clothing that looked virtual, Like if you'd asked me, 3 years ago, I would have said that we're going for extreme reality, like you wouldn't be able to tell that it's virtually. But what
Right.
I'm seeing now is that people want that their public to see that this is virtual. So it's not necessarily amazingly done, or it is very weird in a sense that you can tell it's virtually, it's just like, I don't know, a bunch of wires or whatever, or
Mm,
that flowing water dress, which is
right.
obviously not real.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised by this, because I did not expect it to go on the wild side. My money
Mhm.
was, realistic side.
Yeah.
um so I guess like at some point we're gonna tap into the realistic side for sure, because it's
Hmm.
there. um but I don't know, because to be honest, like we already tapped into the potential of really creative looking fashion, like a dress of water, shoes
Hmm.
of fire, I don't know,
Hmm.
rotating dogs around your head instead of a hat.
Yeah, yeah,
um so we've really set the bar really high in
yeah.
terms of how wild this is.
Yeah.
So I don't think that bar can be pushed any further. I think that probably we're gonna head into the very realistic side, which is kind of like the opposite of that. Or maybe it's just gonna be like two types of people. um it's really hard to tell, and it's a hard question to answer for sure.
Yeah.
But what I think it is that virtual clothing it's gonna be a thing, not just for, you know, people who are more into tech and all that. I think it's gonna become like really, really used, like the way, you know, the Snapchat filters came in the first in their early stages. You know, it was like the dog with the ears and the licking
Right.
thing, you know, and we would all be just like
Right, right,
love
right.
stories, right? So
Yeah.
like and then it got into face morphing and really fine tuning
Mm-hmm.
makeup. You know, we're not in the era anymore where we're putting really weird filters. We're in the era where we're doing like very realistic makeup, or just, you know, just like filters over photos that look
Right.
better. Right. So I think maybe we're gonna be seeing in fashion in terms of wearables kind of like the same thing, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
we've went really wacky
Right.
and we exploited that. So now we're just like gonna come, you know, and make it really smooth and really wearably for the masses, and for it's gonna tap into the masses, you know, who want, I guess, more normal looking stuff, you know, just like
Uh-huh.
make me prettier, make me, you know, whatever, or
Mm.
dress me in a kind of gown that I wouldn't afford in real life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right,
So
exactly.
that's my personal take on it, but we'll definitely see.
Yeah, yeah, we just have to really see. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I definitely want to also, talk about another observation, because there are more women jumping into the NFT, Web3, and the metaverse space. So I definitely want your take in terms of why, or what are some of the reasons you think that women should join in the NFT, Web3, and metaverse spaces?
Well, from my experience, first of all, um, I feel like I have to jump through two hoops into becoming an artist that is renowned or recognized or whatever. One
Right.
of them is obviously being a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is being set up in a geographical place that is not of interest. And the first barrier that Web3 broke for me was the geographical one, because everything was happening online. You know, it was happening over Clubhouse or over Twitter, and, you know, or over Instagram or in the metaverse. And it didn't matter anymore where I'm from. It was the first time ever that I felt included worldwide. Even the fact that us two are now talking is basically the result of me being in that space, you being in that space, but we're like half a world apart right now, you
Right.
know? And real life, we probably wouldn't have ever met because of that, because there's an ocean between us, you know, I'm in Europe. And the first barrier that it broke for me was this one, the geographic one. And it was um there obviously, you know, humans have a lot of biases.
Yeah.
It's how we're built, you know. So there, like real life, there are a lot of biases that I encounter when I say I'm from Europe, particularly from Eastern Europe, you know.
Right.
And online, nobody gave a shit, you know. Nobody asked me um where I'm speaking from, or, you know, all they were only interested in my portfolio, my art,
Right.
what I had to say. And I got my chance in there, you know, on Clubhouse, to say about my art, what I had to say, to showcase my art over Twitter, to tweet about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So because the algorithms, for instance, for Instagram and TikTok, which are both platforms that I heavily use,
Right.
unfortunately, when you post something, they restrict that content to your geographic area. So when I post something on Instagram, it doesn't necessarily showcase it to my followers. It firstly showcases it area based. And TikTok, that this is something that TikTok heavily uses in its algorithm, you know. It showcases you, first of all, your content to the For You page, okay, not to your followers. And the For You page is consisted out of people from the same country as you. The
Mm.
Second, audience that showcase your content are the countries surrounding your country, and not at all is showcasing your content to any other audience, you know. And I do know this for a fact. I'm verified on TikTok. I do have, some insights on how the process works, and some, let's say guidelines to how my content should look, because it is tailored to a specific audience because of the algorithm,
Right.
And being on Web3, those things didn't exist anymore. It wasn't an algorithm that decided where my content is going to be shown for. It was the first time I could actually say, hi, I'm here, I exist, I do this
Right.
kind of stuff. It's not, my stuff should be seen for other people more than just my country,
Right.
And then it was the fact that, the crypto bros, it's kind of like a male world.
Right.
But obviously that's starting to change. And I think a lot of amazing women are in the space. And I was supported, and I got the chance to support other women in the space. And I think that's honestly wonderful. It truly felt like a sisterhood, like I've never encountered before. It did felt like it was, us against the world in terms of, all the good stuff, nothing bad.
Right.
But I did get the chance to support other women, and I was supported by other women in the space, and we did help each other in rooms, because a lot of times there were, I don't know, maybe two women on stage on Clubhouse, and 10 10 men, and
Right.
the other woman would be like, okay, let's now give this, and it was a woman, a chance to speak about her project and all that.
Right.
And we would be, like, and it was really nice because there were other artists that were also holding space for women, and it was something that was voiced about, like, and there
Right.
was this particular artist which is called Wearables. I'm not sure I'm saying his name right, but he actually made a series of NFT which he gifted to women in the NFT space, which were called Let Her Speak. And he would be one of the people that would be, intervening, and would be like, please let her finish, let her finish what she was saying, or let her talk. I would really like to hear from, and it would be a woman from X, and about her projects and all that. And for the first time, I did felt heard, I did felt seen, I did feel supported. Um, and it really meant a lot, the community. I know a lot of people are saying this, like, the community is everything. The community is everything. Like, uh, I really felt seen, I felt seen, I felt like an individual. It didn't matter anymore where I'm from, what's my native language, what's, I don't know, my ethnicity, blah blah blah, all that. It mattered what I'm there for, what my words stand for, what my art stands for.
Right.
So I would encourage any woman out there to get in the space, because there are amazing women holding space for you, for any newcomer. It's a very supportive space, and it's truly been a remarkable experience for me. I actually dedicated, I think, 2 artworks to that particular idea, to the breakthrough that women had in the space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Very well put. But last but not least, where can people find you on social media, and how can people support you and your work?
Yes, of course, the most important question. No, I'm kidding. Well, I think probably the best way to find me is over Instagram at Tammy Lovin. If you type in there, it's gonna pop up a pink picture with my tiny face, which is the same picture I use over all platforms. And from Instagram, you can bounce anywhere really, because I have a link in bio with Twitter, metaverse spaces, Discord, whatever your poison is, you can definitely find me anywhere.
All
Yeah,
right.
so Instagram would be my go-to platform. I reply to everybody there.
All right, cool, cool. Well, thank you so much, Tammy, for jumping onto the show. Your work is absolutely cool. I love like the geometricness and the bright colors that you use, especially within your clothing line. Like I said, I'm into bright colors myself. But yeah, but this has been a great conversation. Just thank you so much.
Thank you so much for doing what you do, and thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been amazing.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. Take care.
Bye. See you.
Bye bye. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the bell for notifications. Also, follow me on my social media platforms and visit my website, ASIATHABIRD.com, and be on the lookout for more interviews involving Web3, NFTs, crypto, and the metaverse.